and there was still a long day ahead. As the cafe grew louder, Emma noticed a man sitting alone at the corner table near the window. He was dressed in an expensive black suit and was typing quickly on his phone. His face looked serious, the kind of expression only business people wore when something big was at stake. He looked familiar to Emma, but she couldn't quite place him. Maybe he was one of those rich executives who came in sometimes for a quick coffee before their meetings. When she went to his table, he barely looked up. "Just a black coffee," he said in a deep voice. Emma nodded politely and went to prepare it. She didn't know that this man was Alexander Harrison, the billionaire CEO of Harrison Enterprises, one of the most powerful companies in the city. To her, he was just another customer trying to start his day. A few minutes later, Emma placed his coffee on the table with her usual kind smile. "Here you go, sir. Extra hot. Just the way you asked." He gave her a quick nod, already back on his phone. His fingers moved fast across the screen, and he seemed tense, almost frustrated. Emma wondered what could make someone so rich still look so stressed. But she didn't have time to think. New customers were pouring in, and orders kept coming. The cafe was buzzing with life. Coffee machines hissed, cups clinked, and conversations filled the air. The sound of laughter mixed with the scent of roasted beans and fresh pastries. Emma was in her rhythm, gliding from table to table with practiced ease. Yet, despite the busy morning, she couldn't shake off a strange feeling, like something unusual was about to happen. Meanwhile, at the corner table, Mr. Harrison finished his coffee, grabbed his suitcase, and rushed out. He was so focused on the business call he was taking that he didn't even notice the phone slipping from his other hand onto the table. It stayed there, screen lighting up every few seconds with new messages and missed calls. Emma, who was wiping a nearby table, saw it after a few minutes. At first, she thought maybe it belonged to one of the regular customers, but when she picked it up, she realized it was no ordinary phone. It was a sleek, expensive-looking device with a foreign language displayed on the screen. A name flashed across it. "Mr. Harrison." She gasped softly. So that's who he was, she thought. She remembered hearing that name somewhere, maybe on the news, maybe in the business section of a newspaper. Emma looked around, hoping he'd return, but the cafe door didn't open again. The morning rush was still in full swing, and she couldn't leave her post. She carefully placed the phone behind the counter, deciding she'd hold on to it until the owner came back. Just as she was about to get back to work, the phone started ringing. The ringtone was loud and sharp, cutting through the cafe noise. Emma froze. The screen showed an unknown international number. She hesitated. Should she answer? It wasn't her phone after all. But what if it was important? What if the person calling needed to reach the owner urgently? Her heart pounded as the phone kept ringing. Customers were calling her name, asking for refills, but her eyes were fixed on the screen. Something inside her told her this was no ordinary call. She took a deep breath, wiped her hands on her apron, and picked it up. "Hello?" she said softly. There was silence for a moment. Then a man's voice came through, speaking quickly in a thick accent. "Mr. Harrison? Finally. We've been trying to reach you for hours. The deal is falling apart. We need your confirmation now." Emma's eyes widened. She had no idea what to say. This isn't Mr. Harrison," she stammered. But the man on the other end didn't stop talking. He kept going, sounding desperate, explaining something about contracts, deadlines, and investors. Emma could barely keep up, but she grabbed a napkin and started writing down whatever she could catch. Names, numbers, company details, anything that might help later. As she scribbled, her hands shook. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew one thing. This phone call was important, maybe even life-changing for someone. The cafe around her continued buzzing with life, but Emma felt like the world had slowed down. She had no idea that by answering that single call, she had just stepped into the middle of a billionaire's crisis. And before the day ended, that one small decision, picking up a phone that wasn't hers, would change both their lives forever. Emma's heart was still beating fast after ending the strange phone call. She stood behind the cafe counter, clutching the sleek black phone in her trembling hands. Around her, The morning rush continued as usual. Customers chatted, coffee cups clinked, and the smell of fresh croissants filled the air. But inside her head, everything was spinning. The man on the phone had sounded desperate, like the world was falling apart. She stared at the screen again. The call had come from an international number, and the contact name showed Mr. Tanaka. She whispered the name under her breath. It sounded foreign, maybe Japanese. Emma frowned. She didn't know much about business, but she could tell from the man's tone that something serious was happening. He had mentioned a deal, and kept repeating words like contract, deadline, and approval. Emma's first thought was to hang up and forget everything. It wasn't her business. She was just a waitress, after all. But another voice in her head reminded her that the phone belonged to that man in the suit, Mr. Harrison. He had left it behind when he rushed out earlier. Maybe this call was about his work. What if he missed it and something bad happened because of that? Her hands trembled as she stared at the phone again. She had written everything the caller said on a napkin. Numbers, company names, even a few sentences she didn't really understand. Project Orion, final confirmation, transfer by noon. The words looked like pieces of a puzzle she couldn't solve. The cafe owner, Mrs. Dawson, noticed Emma standing still and called out, "Emma, table 3's order is ready. Are you okay, dear?" Emma blinked and quickly tucked the phone under the counter. "Why, yes, ma'am. Just a small mix-up." She smiled, grabbed the tray, and hurried to the next table. But her thoughts were far from the cafe now. She kept replaying the man's voice in her mind. He had thought she was Mr. Harrison's assistant. That meant this wasn't just a regular business call. It was something urgent, maybe even critical. When the cafe quieted a little after the morning rush, Emma took the phone out again. There were several missed calls now, all from the same number. Her heart raced. "Should I call back?" she whispered to herself. She bit her lip, unsure what to do. What if she got in trouble for touching someone else's phone? But what if not calling back caused a disaster for the owner? She took a deep breath, then pressed the call back button. The line connected almost immediately. "Mr. Harrison, finally. Where have you been?" The man's voice came through again, frustrated and impatient. Emma swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, sir. This isn't Mr. Harrison. But before she could finish, he interrupted. "Please listen. The Japanese investors are pulling out. They think your company backed out of the deal. You have to confirm the agreement before noon or we lose everything." Emma's eyes widened. "Wait. I'm not. The documents were sent to your email, sir. You must reply before Tokyo's market closes." The man continued urgently. His accent grew thicker as he spoke faster. "Sir, please. This isn't Mr. Harrison. I work at a cafe and he left his phone here," Emma finally said in a louder voice. There was a long pause on the other end. "He left his phone?" the man repeated, his voice lowering. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Emma replied, glancing at the fancy phone. "He was here earlier this morning. He ordered a black coffee and left in a hurry. He dropped this phone on his table." The man sighed deeply. "Oh no. This is bad. Very bad. Without his confirmation, the investors will cancel the partnership. The deal is worth over $200 million. Emma's mouth fell open. $200 million? She couldn't even imagine that much money. Her rent was due in 2 days, and she barely had $100 in her account. But now, she was somehow standing in the middle of a situation that involved millions. "Listen carefully," the man said quickly. "I am Mr. Tanaka. I work for the Japanese branch of Harrison Enterprises. That phone has the only access to the documents we need today. You must find Mr. Harrison right now." Emma's palms began to sweat. I don't know where he went. I think he mentioned the airport when he was on another call." "Then go. Please, you must give it to him before it's too late," Mr. Tanaka urged. Emma froze. Go? She was just a waitress. She couldn't leave her job and run across the city. But when she looked at the phone again, she realized this wasn't just any situation. This could destroy someone's career, maybe even the company itself. Her boss walked by again, wiping a table. "Emma, are you sure you're okay?" You look pale. Emma nodded quickly. I'm fine. I just need to do something important. She looked down at the napkin with all the notes she had scribbled earlier. Names, times, and numbers she didn't understand, and she felt a strange sense of responsibility. She didn't know Mr. Harrison personally, but he had always been polite when he came to the cafe. If she didn't try to help, she would feel guilty forever. The phone buzzed again, this time with a new message. It was from an assistant named Laura, Office HQ. The text read, "Sir, the investor's flight leaves in 3 hours. Please confirm the documents ASAP." Emma bit her lip, her mind racing. 3 hours, she whispered. That's not much time. She glanced toward the cafe door, then back at her apron and the phone in her hand. She knew her shift wasn't over, and leaving would probably make her boss angry. But she couldn't ignore what she had just learned. Someone's future, maybe hundreds of jobs, depended on this phone getting back to its owner. As the clock ticked closer to 10 a.m., Emma made her decision. She stuffed the phone and the napkin full of notes into her bag. She quickly told Mrs. Dawson, "Ma'am, I need to return something important to a customer. I'll be right back." Her boss frowned, confused. "Emma, where are you?" But Emma was already halfway out the door, her heart pounding as she ran into the busy street. The rain had started again, cold drops splashing against her face. But she didn't care. Somewhere out there, a billionaire's future depended on her. She didn't know exactly where to go, but she had one clue: the airport. And so, with determination burning in her chest, Emma ran toward the nearest bus stop, holding tight to the phone that would soon change her life forever. Emma sat in the back seat of the old city bus, her heart racing as she clutched the black phone tightly. Raindrops ran down the window beside her, blurring the tall buildings outside. She could still hear the voice of Mr. Tanaka echoing in her head. His panic, his urgency, his words about a $200 million deal. Every time she thought about it, her stomach turned. She wasn't sure what she was doing, but she knew she couldn't just sit still. The bus bounced over potholes, and Emma held the phone close to her chest, afraid she might drop it. She looked at the screen again. There were more missed calls and unread messages. Her hands were trembling, but curiosity got the best of her. She opened the latest message. It was from someone named Board Secretary HQ. It said, "Mr. Harrison, we need immediate approval. Investors are on edge. Please respond now." Emma sighed. "If only they knew I'm not him," she muttered to herself. At that exact moment, the phone began to ring again. The sound made her jump. The same international number flashed on the screen. Mr. Tanaka was calling again. She hesitated but finally answered, whispering into the phone. "Hello, Mr. Harrison? Please tell me you've reached the office." The man's voice came, sounding even more stressed. Emma bit her lip. "Sir, I told you before. I'm not Mr. Harrison. I'm the waitress who found his phone at the cafe." The line went quiet for a second. Then Mr. Tanaka sighed heavily. "Miss, please forgive me. I didn't believe you at first. But we are in big trouble. The investors think Mr. Harrison backed out of the deal. If we don't fix this soon, everything will fall apart." Emma frowned, feeling helpless. "I'm trying to find him. I think he went to the airport. Maybe he's flying somewhere." Yes, he's going to Tokyo for the signing," Mr. Tanaka exclaimed. "You must stop him before his flight takes off. He has to call me." The wrong version of the agreement was sent. If he signs it, it could destroy the whole partnership. Emma's heart almost stopped. "Destroy?" she repeated softly. "Yes, it would make it look like we broke our promise. Billions could be lost, and hundreds of people could lose their jobs. Please, miss, you must find him." Emma stared out the bus window as the rain fell harder, thinking fast. She wasn't a business expert, but she could tell this was serious. She remembered how Mr. Harrison had looked at the cafe. So focused, so stressed. Now it made sense. He must have been preparing for this huge deal, and one simple mistake could ruin it all. "I'll try," she said finally. "I'll do my best to find him. Thank you, miss. Please hurry." Mr. Tanaka said, relief in his voice before hanging up. Emma sat back, feeling a mix of fear and determination. I'm just a waitress, she whispered. How did I end up in this mess? But deep down, something stronger pushed her forward. Maybe it was her instinct to help. Maybe it was her belief that doing the right thing always mattered, no matter who you were. When the bus stopped near the city center, Emma got off and ran toward the train station that connected to the airport. The rain soaked her uniform, but she didn't slow down. She could feel the clock ticking in her head. As she waited for the airport train, the phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't a call. It was a video notification. Out of curiosity, she tapped it. A message played from a business partner. The man in the video spoke fast, with a thick accent showing papers and figures. Emma didn't understand most of it, but one thing caught her attention. A name, Orion Project. She remembered scribbling that same name on the napkin earlier when Mr. Tanaka had first called. So that's what this is about, she whispered. It wasn't just any deal. It was something big, something that connected countries, companies, and lives. Her train arrived, and she jumped in, still clutching the phone. She sat down, breathing heavily. Around her, people were laughing, reading newspapers, scrolling through their phones. No one knew that this young waitress sitting among them was trying to save a billionaire's empire. Suddenly, the phone rang again. But this time, the number was different. It said, Laura, assistant. Emma quickly answered. Hello, Mr. Harrison. Where are you? The clients are waiting for your reply, the woman said sharply. Emma spoke quickly. I'm sorry, ma'am, but this isn't Mr. Harrison. I work at the cafe. He left his phone there, and I'm trying to get it back to him. There was silence. Then Laura said in disbelief, You're joking. No, I'm not. Please, do you know where he is? I think he's on his way to the airport. Laura gasped. Yes, he's heading to Terminal 3 right now. Oh no. If he boards the plane without checking his messages, it'll be too late. Emma's pulse quickened. Okay, I'm on my way there too. I'll try to reach him before he leaves. You're actually helping? Laura sounded surprised. You don't have to. I know, Emma interrupted softly. But I want to. Laura was silent for a moment, then said, You're a good person, miss. Call me as soon as you see him. I'll alert security so they know you're coming. The train screeched to a stop, and Emma ran out before the doors closed. The airport was still a few minutes away, but she didn't slow down. Her shoes splashed through puddles, and her hair stuck to her face, but she kept going. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Mr. Tanaka appeared. Please confirm when you reach him. We are waiting for the final call. She looked at the message and smiled faintly. You're trusting the wrong person, Mr. Tanaka, she whispered. But I'll try not to let you down. As she ran through the crowded station, her mind raced. She thought about her brother, about her small apartment, about how she had never even stepped inside an airport before. And now, here she was, running through one like her life depended on it. She realized something. Life was strange. One moment, she was serving coffee to strangers. The next, she was carrying the weight of a billionaire's deal on her shoulders. When she finally saw the airport gates in the distance, she felt her heart rise with hope. But she also knew time was slipping away. The announcement board flashed. Flight to Tokyo, boarding soon. Emma took a deep breath, clutching the phone tightly. Hold on, Mr. Harrison, she murmured. I'm coming. Little did she know that one act of kindness, answering a wrong call, had just turned her into the most unlikely hero of a story that would soon make headlines around the world. The airport was alive with the sound of rolling suitcases, rushing footsteps, and flight announcements echoing through the halls. Emma stepped inside, completely drenched from the rain, her hair sticking to her face and her cafe uniform slightly wrinkled. She had never been to an airport before. It looked huge, like a city within a city. People hurried past her in every direction, holding passports and boarding passes, while she stood clutching the billionaire's phone to her chest, trying to catch her breath. Her heart pounded as she looked around. Terminal 3, she remembered. That's where Mr. Harrison was supposed to be. She scanned the signs, spotted the direction, and started running. Her shoes squeaked on the shiny floor, drawing a few stares, but she didn't care. Every minute she lost could mean disaster. As she ran, the phone vibrated in her hand again. It was another call, this time from Laura, Mr. Harrison's assistant. Emma answered quickly, panting. "Hello, Emma. Thank goodness." Laura's voice came, sounding relieved. "I talked to airport security. They're letting you through the first checkpoint. Just tell them your name. Mr. Harrison's flight is boarding in 20 minutes. You have to reach him before that." Emma felt her heart sink. 20 minutes? She repeated. That wasn't much time. The airport was massive and she had no boarding pass, no ticket, just determination and a phone. "You can do this," Laura said firmly. "You're our only hope right now." Emma nodded, even though Laura couldn't see her. "I'll find him," she said breathlessly, hanging up before racing forward again. At the security gate, she explained everything quickly, showing the phone as proof. The guards looked skeptical at first, but after a quick call from Laura, they nodded and let her pass. She whispered a quick "thank you" before sprinting down the terminal, weaving through crowds of travelers. Her lungs burned as she ran. "Come on, Emma," she muttered to herself. "You can do this." She stopped for a moment near a cafe inside the terminal, catching her breath. Her legs ached, but she didn't slow down. She pulled out the phone again, hoping for a clue about where exactly Mr. Harrison might be. The screen lit up with a notification, his calendar reminder. Flight to Tokyo, gate A17. Emma's eyes widened. "A 17, she whispered, spotting a sign that said a gate straight ahead. She started running again, ignoring the pain in her feet as she rushed past. She bumped into a man holding coffee, nearly spilling it. "Hey, watch where you're going," he shouted, but she just turned back and shouted, "Sorry," before continuing her run. Every second felt heavier than the last. The echo of her footsteps seemed to match the beating of her heart. Somewhere in this massive building, a billionaire was about to make a deal that could go terribly wrong, unless she reached him in time. The phone buzzed again. A new message appeared from Mr. Tanaka. "No update yet. We are minutes away from the deadline. Please confirm." Emma bit her lip. She didn't even know how to reply. What could she say? "I'm a waitress chasing your boss through an airport?" That sounded ridiculous. But still, she couldn't give up. Finally, she reached gate A17. Her breath caught in her throat. The area was crowded with passengers lining up to board. She searched the faces frantically, looking for the man in the black suit she had seen earlier that morning. First, she didn't see him. Panic rose in her chest. What if he already boarded the plane? She thought. Her stomach twisted. She walked closer, her eyes darting around. And then, she spotted him, tall, serious, with the same calm but focused expression, talking to an airline staff member. "Mr. Harrison!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the terminal. He turned, confused, scanning the crowd. Emma waved the phone in the air as she ran toward him. Security guards nearby tensed, unsure what was happening. "Mr. Harrison, wait!" she cried again, breathless. When she reached him, she bent over, gasping for air. The guards stepped forward, but Mr. Harrison raised his hand to stop them. Recognition flickered in his eyes. "You're the waitress from the cafe," he said slowly, frowning. "What are you doing here?" Emma tried to speak but was too out of breath. She handed him the phone. "You left this on the table," she panted. "And there were calls from Tokyo. It's about your deal. They said, it's urgent." Mr. Harrison's face changed instantly. He snatched the phone, unlocking it quickly. "Tokyo?" he muttered, scrolling through the messages. "Oh no!" He pressed the call button and turned away, pacing as he spoke rapidly into the phone. Emma stood there, still catching her breath, watching him. She could hear bits of his conversation, words like contract, wrong version, send now, and final approval. For a few tense moments, everything felt like a movie scene. Mr. Harrison's voice was sharp, his tone urgent. Finally, After several minutes, he stopped talking and let out a deep sigh of relief. Then, to Emma's surprise, he turned toward her and smiled. A real, grateful smile. "You have no idea what you just did," he said softly. "You saved me. You saved my entire company." Emma blinked, still confused. I did." He nodded. "If you hadn't answered that call or brought this phone back, the deal would have collapsed. We were about to sign the wrong agreement. It would have cost us millions." Emma's mouth fell open. She didn't know what to say. "I just thought it was important," she whispered. "It was," he said firmly. "More than you can imagine." The airline staff came over. "Sir, we're closing boarding soon," one of them said politely. Mr. Harrison turned to Emma again. "You've done more for me today than most people ever have. I won't forget this." Emma smiled shyly. "I'm just glad I could help." Before boarding, he handed her a business card. "If you ever need anything at all, call this number." She nodded, tucking it carefully into her apron pocket. She felt strangely emotional, standing there in the middle of the busy airport, soaked and tired but happier than she had been in a long time. As Mr. Harrison boarded his flight, he turned one last time and waved. Emma waved back, smiling. When the plane doors closed, she finally allowed herself to sit down. Her hands still shook from everything that had happened. Around her, people went about their day, unaware that this young waitress had just helped save a billionaire's most important deal. She laughed softly to herself. "What a crazy day," she murmured. She looked at her reflection in the glass window. Her uniform was damp, her hair messy, but her eyes sparkled. She had always thought her life was ordinary, but today proved that even ordinary people could do extraordinary things. Emma stood up, feeling proud and lighthearted. She headed back toward the exit, not knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. Emma sat quietly on a bench near the airport exit, still trying to process everything that had just happened. Her hands were shaking slightly as she looked at the small business card Mr. Harrison had given her. It had his name printed in gold letters, Alexander Harrison, CEO, Harrison Enterprises. She smiled softly, unable to believe what she had just done. Just this morning, she was serving coffee and cleaning tables. Now, she had somehow helped a billionaire save his company's biggest deal. Outside the glass windows, the rain had finally stopped, and the clouds were breaking apart, letting sunlight spill through. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the warmth on her face. The world suddenly looked different, brighter, almost magical. She still couldn't fully understand how everything had happened so fast. She stood up, brushing her damp apron, and decided to head back to the cafe. She imagined Mrs. Dawson's face when she'd return after suddenly running off mid-shift. "I'll probably be fired," Emma muttered to herself with a laugh. But deep inside, she didn't regret a thing. Something told her she had done the right thing, something truly important. When she reached the cafe an hour later, Mrs. Dawson was waiting near the counter, arms crossed. "Emma Grace," she said sternly, but there was a hint of worry in her tone. "Where on earth did you go? You just disappeared in the middle of rush hour." Emma quickly explained everything, the forgotten phone, the foreign call, the urgent deal, and how she ran to the airport to return it to the man. She told it all breathlessly, her hands moving as she spoke. Mrs. Dawson's eyes widened more and more with each detail. When Emma finally finished, her boss just stared at her for a moment, then broke into a laugh. "My goodness, Emma, you actually ran to the airport for a stranger's phone? You're unbelievable." Emma smiled shyly. "I couldn't just do nothing. It felt important." Mrs. Dawson shook her head, half amused, half amazed. "You've got a big heart, dear. I can't be mad at you for that. Go change and take a break. You've earned it." Emma sighed with relief and smiled warmly. For the rest of the day, she went back to work, but everything felt different now. The customers, the smell of coffee, the sound of laughter. It all felt lighter, almost joyful. She caught herself smiling for no reason several times. Maybe it was the adrenaline finally fading, or maybe it was the quiet pride she felt inside. Evening came, and the cafe lights glowed warmly against the fading sunlight. Emma was cleaning a table when the cafe door opened, and a sudden hush fell over the room. Everyone turned to look. Standing there, dressed in a sleek navy blue suit, was Mr. Harrison himself. Emma froze, the cloth slipping from her hand. Mr. Harrison?" she whispered. He smiled slightly and walked toward her. The other customers whispered among themselves. It wasn't every day a billionaire walked into a small cafe. "Good evening, Miss Emma," he said in a calm, warm voice. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Emma blinked, still shocked. "No, sir, not at all. I didn't expect to see you again." He nodded. "I imagine you didn't. But after what you did today, I couldn't just leave without saying a proper thank you." Mrs. Dawson came rushing out from behind the counter, wiping her hands nervously. "Oh, Mr. Harrison, it's an honor to have you here. Please sit down. Coffee on the house." Mr. Harrison chuckled softly. "Thank you, but I came here for something else." He turned back to Emma. "You didn't just return my phone. You saved a partnership worth millions of dollars. I spoke to the Japanese investors after landing, and they said your quick action made all the difference. Because of you, we were able to fix the error in time." The cafe went completely silent. Everyone was listening. Emma's cheeks turned pink as she shook her head. "I didn't really do anything special, sir. I just answered the phone." "That's exactly the point," he said kindly. "You did the right thing when most people wouldn't have. You cared about someone else's problem when you didn't have to. That's rare." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out an envelope. "This is a small token of my gratitude." Emma's eyes widened. "Oh no, sir, please." But he raised a hand gently. "It's not just money. There's also something else inside, an offer." Confused, she slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a check and a formal letter. She read the first few lines and gasped. It was a job offer, a position at Harrison Enterprises as an executive assistant trainee. I don't understand," she stammered. "You're offering me a job?" Mr. Harrison nodded. "You've proven you have responsibility, courage, and the ability to stay calm in a crisis. Those are the kind of people I want working with me." Mrs. Dawson's mouth fell open. "Emma, that's incredible," she exclaimed. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't speak for a moment. "I don't even know what to say," she whispered finally. "I've never worked in an office before. I don't know anything about business." Mr. Harrison smiled. "That's fine. Skills can be taught. Character can't. You've already shown me what kind of person you are." Tears rolled down Emma's cheeks, and she wiped them quickly, embarrassed. "Thank you, sir. I'll work hard. I promise." "I know you will," he said warmly. "Report to our headquarters on Monday morning. Laura, my assistant, will help you get started." With that, he stood up and extended his hand. Emma shook it, still in disbelief. The entire cafe clapped softly as he walked out, leaving behind a stunned but smiling waitress. When the door closed, Mrs. Dawson hugged Emma tightly. "I always knew you were meant for more than this cafe," she said proudly. "You deserve this." Emma laughed through her tears. "It feels like a dream. This morning I was worried about my rent, and now—" She held up the letter, smiling. "Now my whole life is changing." That night, as Emma walked home under the glowing streetlights, the world felt different. The air was cool and fresh, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel tired or small. She felt alive, hopeful, and proud. She thought about how everything had started with a simple wrong number and a decision to answer it. It made her realize that sometimes, life gives you a chance to do something extraordinary when you least expect it. You just have to be brave enough to act. And as she looked up at the stars, Emma whispered to herself, "Maybe miracles really do happen, just not the way we imagine." The next morning, Emma woke up early, even before her alarm rang. She sat up on her small bed, sunlight spilling through the thin curtains. For a moment, she didn't remember everything that had happened yesterday. The lost phone, the airport rush, Mr. Harrison's visit to the cafe, and his unbelievable job offer. But as soon as she saw the letter lying on her table, it all came rushing back, and her heart filled with excitement again. She picked it up and read the lines once more just to be sure it wasn't a dream. Her hands trembled slightly as she smiled to herself. "I really got a job at Harrison Enterprises," she whispered. The thought alone felt unreal. She had spent years working in that small cafe, serving people who never even looked her way, and now she was about to enter a world of glass buildings, expensive suits, and boardrooms. She made herself a cup of tea, sat by the window, and thought about how everything had changed. She remembered how nervous she had been answering that foreign call, and how she almost didn't pick it up. What if she had ignored it? What if she had thought it wasn't her business? Her life would have stayed the same, quiet, ordinary, struggling. But that one small decision had changed everything. On Monday morning, Emma stood in front of the tall Harrison Enterprises building in her new office clothes. She wore a simple white blouse, navy skirt, and a pair of borrowed heels that were just a little too big. The glass walls reflected the morning sun, and people in suits hurried in and out of the lobby, their phones glued to their ears. Emma took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "You can do this." Then she stepped inside. The lobby was grand. Marble floors, elegant plants, and a long reception desk. She walked nervously toward the counter, clutching her offer letter. "Good morning," she said politely. "I'm here to see Ms. Laura. I'm starting work today." The receptionist smiled. "Of course, Miss Emma Grace. Mr. Harrison informed us. Please wait a moment." Within minutes, a tall woman in a navy blue suit approached her. She looked confident, with kind eyes behind her glasses. "You must be Emma," she said warmly. "I'm Laura, Mr. Harrison's assistant. Welcome to Harrison Enterprises." Emma smiled nervously. "Thank you. I'm really honored to be here." Laura nodded. "We're glad to have you. Mr. Harrison told me everything about how you helped save the Japan deal." "That was impressive." Emma blushed. "I just did what anyone would have done." Laura smiled knowingly. "Not everyone would. Come on. Let me show you around." She led Emma through the building, introducing her to the departments marketing, finance, logistics, and international affairs. Everywhere they went, people smiled politely and whispered when they passed. It seemed like everyone already knew about the waitress who saved the CEO's deal. By the time they reached the executive floor, Emma's nervousness had faded a little. She was amazed at how professional everything looked. The offices were bright and organized, the people busy but polite. Laura stopped at a desk near a large glass window. "This will be your place," she said. "You'll assist me and occasionally help Mr. Harrison when needed." Emma looked at the neatly arranged desk, computer, notepads, a small plant, and felt a wave of gratitude. "I'll do my best," she promised. Laura smiled. "I know you will. Mr. Harrison's office is just there. He'd like to speak with you when you're ready." Emma nodded nervously and walked toward the office door. She knocked softly. "Come in," a familiar voice said. Mr. Harrison was sitting behind a large desk, looking over some documents. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Emma, welcome to the team." She smiled shyly. "Thank you, sir. It still feels a little unreal." He chuckled. "It's very real, I assure you. You've earned your place here. And," he added, leaning back slightly, "you might be happy to know that the deal with the Japanese investors was finalized this morning. The contract is signed." Emma's eyes widened. "Really? That's amazing." Mr. Harrison nodded. "Yes, and you were the reason it happened. The investors were impressed by your quick thinking. They said your calm voice on the call made them believe in the integrity of this company. It wasn't just business, it was about trust. And you gave them that." Emma couldn't believe it. "I didn't realize it mattered that much." "It did," he said firmly. "Sometimes the smallest actions create the biggest ripples. You proved that." He stood up and handed her a small folder. "This is your orientation packet. Learn everything you can. Laura will train you. But remember, what got you here wasn't luck. It was your honesty and courage. Don't ever lose that." Emma smiled, feeling a rush of pride. "I won't, sir." The days passed, and Emma slowly adjusted to her new job. It wasn't easy. There were new systems to learn, meetings to attend, and emails that never seemed to end. But she worked hard, stayed humble, and kept learning. Laura guided her patiently, and soon, Emma started handling small responsibilities, arranging meetings, writing reports, and communicating with clients. One afternoon, while Emma was organizing some files, Mr. Harrison's phone rang. He was out for a meeting, so Laura answered. The voice on the other end was from the same Japanese firm. They wanted to confirm details of an upcoming expansion. Laura quickly handed the phone to Emma, whispering, "You handled them before, right? Help me translate their request." Emma nodded, nervous but calm. She listened carefully, remembering how she had once connected them accidentally. This time she was prepared, professional and confident. She explained things clearly, took notes, and reassured them about their concerns. When the call ended, Laura smiled proudly. "You handled that like a pro," she said. Emma laughed softly. "Guess I've had some practice." By the end of her first month, Emma was no longer just the waitress who helped. She had become an important part of the team, dependable, smart, and respected. Mr. Harrison often mentioned her in meetings as an example of initiative and honesty. One day, as the office celebrated the official signing of the Japan deal, Mr. Harrison raised his glass and said, "Let's not forget the person who started it all, Miss Emma Grace. Her quick thinking and kindness didn't just save a deal. It reminded us that success is built on humanity." Everyone clapped, and Emma felt her eyes fill with tears. She had never imagined she'd be standing among business executives, being applauded for something that began with a simple act of doing the right thing. That night, as she walked home under the soft city lights, Emma smiled to herself. Life had changed completely, but one thing remained the same, her belief that small actions can lead to big miracles. She looked up at the glowing skyscraper where she now worked and whispered, "All this from one wrong number." A few weeks had passed since Emma started her new job at Harrison Enterprises, and life had changed completely for her. Every morning, she woke up with excitement, dressed neatly, and took the bus to the tall glass building that now felt like her second home. The fear and nervousness she once had were gone, replaced by quiet confidence. People at the office smiled when they saw her. Even those who didn't know her story could sense her kindness and positive energy. Emma worked hard every day. She learned how to schedule meetings, write professional emails, and manage reports. Sometimes, she stayed late just to make sure everything was perfect. Laura often reminded her to take breaks, but Emma didn't mind the long hours. She felt proud to be part of something big. She wasn't just serving coffee anymore. She was part of a company that trusted her. One morning, as Emma was organizing documents for Mr. Harrison, she overheard two employees talking near the break room. "Did you hear about the upcoming awards event?" one of them said. "The Global Business Conference is honoring companies for outstanding partnerships. Mr. Harrison's deal with Japan got shortlisted for the Best International Collaboration Award." Emma froze for a second. That was the same deal she had accidentally helped save. She smiled to herself and continued her work quietly, not saying a word. Later that afternoon, Laura walked into her office with a cheerful grin. "Emma, guess what? Mr. Harrison just got invited to speak at the Global Business Conference next week. And," she paused dramatically, "he wants you to come too." Emma's eyes widened. "Me? Why? I'm just an assistant." Laura laughed. "Just an assistant? You're the reason that partnership even exists." Mr. Harrison said it's time people know the full story. Emma felt her heart race. "But I can't go to a big event like that. I don't even have fancy clothes or—" "Don't worry," Laura interrupted kindly. "The company will handle everything. You just need to be there." That evening, Emma stood in front of her small mirror at home, still trying to process the news. She thought about how different her life had become. Just a month ago, she was wiping tables in a cafe. Now she was about to attend a grand business event with the CEO himself. The day of the conference arrived. The venue was a grand hotel ballroom filled with people from around the world, CEOs, investors, and journalists. The chandeliers sparkled, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Emma wore a simple but elegant navy blue dress that Laura had helped her pick. Her hair was neatly tied, and she looked graceful yet humble. As she walked in with Mr. Harrison and Laura, cameras flashed, and people turned to greet the famous businessman. Some whispered when they noticed Emma beside him. "Isn't that the girl from the story?" they murmured. Emma tried to stay calm, smiling politely even though her heart was beating fast. The event began with speeches and awards. When it was finally Mr. Harrison's turn to speak, the host introduced him as the man behind one of the year's most successful international deals. He walked to the stage confidently, but before starting, he said something that made everyone turn their heads. "Before I begin," Mr. Harrison said, his voice calm and steady, "I want to share a story, a true story. It's about how one small act of honesty can change everything." He paused and looked toward Emma. She felt her cheeks grow warm as he continued. "Several weeks ago," he said, "I lost my phone at a cafe, just hours before a critical call with our Japanese investors. That one call could have saved or ended years of work. But instead of losing that chance, something remarkable happened. A waitress found my phone, answered the call, and handled it with kindness, patience, and courage. Because of her, we didn't lose our biggest client. Because of her, this partnership exists." The audience murmured in surprise and admiration. Mr. Harrison smiled. "That waitress is now part of our company. Her name is Emma Grace." Everyone turned to look at Emma. For a moment, she wished the floor would swallow her whole. But then, something beautiful happened. People started clapping. The applause grew louder until the entire hall was filled with it. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered her name, and Mr. Harrison gestured for her to stand. Emma stood up slowly, her face glowing red with embarrassment and pride. She smiled shyly and nodded as everyone applauded. Laura patted her arm gently, whispering, "You deserve this." When the applause finally faded, Mr. Harrison continued, "This story reminds us that success doesn't just come from big plans or money. It comes from people, from those who choose to do the right thing when no one's watching." Emma didn't know who I was. She didn't do it for reward or attention. She did it because it was right. And that's what real integrity looks like. The room erupted in applause once more, louder than before. Some people even stood up to clap. Emma couldn't hold back her tears. She had never felt so seen, so valued, in her entire life. After the speech, several guests came to meet her. They shook her hand and praised her honesty. "You remind us that humanity still exists in business," one of them said. Another smiled warmly and told her, "You're an inspiration." Emma didn't know what to say except, "Thank you." Her voice trembled, but her heart was full. Later that night, after the awards ceremony ended, Mr. Harrison approached her. "You did well, Emma," he said softly. She smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I didn't even do anything, sir. You're the one who made that deal happen." Mr. Harrison shook his head. "No, you started it. Without your honesty that day, none of this would exist. Remember that." They stood by the window of the ballroom, looking out at the city lights. Emma's reflection shimmered against the glass, the reflection of a girl who had come from nothing and yet had made a difference in the world. When she returned home that night, she placed the small award pin the company had given her on her bedside table. She looked at it for a long time, smiling softly. It wasn't just an award, it was proof that kindness mattered, that doing the right thing could change lives, even your own. As she drifted off to sleep, she whispered to herself, "I never imagined my story would end up here, but maybe that's how life works. One small choice can lead to something beautiful." And with that thought, Emma closed her eyes, her heart peaceful and full of gratitude. Emma woke up the next morning with a feeling she had never experienced before, excitement mixed with calm determination. Her small apartment felt brighter somehow, even though it was still simple and modest. She stretched, thinking about everything that had happened over the last few weeks. The lost phone, the airport chase, her first days at Harrison Enterprises, and the recognition at the Global Business Conference. Her life had changed completely, and yet it felt like the beginning of something even bigger. She got ready carefully, choosing her outfit for the day. Today, she was going to officially start her new responsibilities, and she wanted to make a good impression. As she walked to the office, the city seemed alive in a different way. People rushed by, cars honked, but she felt like she was moving with purpose rather than just following the crowd. When she entered the Harrison Enterprises building, she was greeted with smiles and nods. Emma realized she had truly become part of this world. Laura came to meet her immediately. "Good morning, Emma. Ready for your first big day on your own?" Emma nodded, a little nervous but mostly excited. "Yes, I think so. I want to do my best." Laura smiled. "I know you will. Mr. Harrison is expecting some important calls from international clients today, and he trusts you to manage the first round. Just remember everything we practiced." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a thrill she had never known. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just following instructions. She was making decisions, helping people, and being trusted for her judgment. The morning passed quickly. Emma handled phone calls, emails, and documents with focus and efficiency. She spoke politely to clients, carefully noting their concerns, and ensured Mr. Harrison had all the information he needed before making decisions. She noticed the subtle nods and appreciative smiles from colleagues, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged. During lunch, Mr. Harrison walked over to her desk. Emma felt a little nervous as he stopped in front of her. "Emma, I wanted to tell you how impressed I am," he said. "You've adapted quickly, and more importantly, you've shown calmness and judgment that many experienced employees struggle to maintain. I knew you were capable, but this exceeds my expectations." Emma blushed. "Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to learn and help as much as I can." He smiled warmly. "That's exactly why I want to give you more responsibilities. From now on, you'll be involved in meetings with our senior team. You'll see the decisions we make and start contributing your ideas. You earned it with your initiative and integrity." Emma's eyes widened. I don't know what to say. I'll do my best, sir." "Good," he said firmly. "I know you will." The afternoon was filled with meetings and strategy sessions. Emma listened attentively as executives discussed projects, budgets, and partnerships. She asked questions when necessary, took careful notes, and even made a few suggestions that were acknowledged positively. She realized that she wasn't just learning about business. She was learning about trust, leadership, and teamwork. By the end of the day, Emma felt exhausted but happy. She packed her bag, thinking about how far she had come in such a short time. From a cafe waitress answering a wrong number to being part of a global company, it still felt almost unreal. On her way home, she walked through the streets reflecting on what she had learned. Life, she realized, was unpredictable. One small decision, answering a phone call, had changed everything. She had been given an opportunity to prove herself, and she had seized it. But more than that, she understood the importance of kindness, courage, and integrity. Those were the qualities that had opened doors for her. That evening, as Emma sat by her window, she opened the letter from Mr. Harrison again. It wasn't just an employment offer. It was a symbol of trust and belief in her potential. She thought about the investors, the missed phone calls, the airport rush, and how all of it had led to this moment. She smiled, feeling proud of herself and grateful for the strange twist of fate that had brought her here. Over the next few months, Emma thrived at Harrison Enterprises. She became a vital part of the team, handling complex tasks, assisting in critical projects, and even mentoring new employees in her own way. She kept learning, growing, and slowly realized that her life was no longer ordinary. She had found her purpose and her confidence, and she carried herself with dignity and calm strength. One day, Mr. Harrison called her into his office. "Emma," he said, smiling, "you've done more than save a deal. You've inspired everyone here. I want you to know that your contributions are noticed, and your future here is bright. You started as a stranger who did a kind act, and now you're part of this company's story. That is something no one can ever take away from you. Emma felt tears welling up, but she smiled. Thank you, sir. I'll continue to work hard and prove that your trust in me was not misplaced. He nodded. I know you will. And remember, your journey is just beginning. There are bigger challenges ahead, and I believe you're ready for them. As Emma left his office, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that life doesn't always give second chances, but sometimes it gives unexpected opportunities to those who are brave enough to act. She had started as an ordinary waitress, but she had become someone who could make a real difference. In business, in people's lives, and in her own. That night, Emma sat on her balcony, looking at the city lights sparkling in the distance. She thought about the cafe, the rainy morning, the airport, and Mr. Harrison's phone. She whispered to herself, one small choice, and everything changed. Emma smiled, feeling a quiet excitement for the future. She didn't know what challenges awaited her next, but she was ready. She had discovered her courage, her strength, and the power of doing what's right. And for the first time, she truly believed that her life could be extraordinary. Not because of luck, but because of her actions, her heart, and her determination.